Hi everybody, how's it going today? Thanks for watching. I'm in a Fendt 1050 here at the moment. Got our Porsche disc hooked up to it. This we're renting this 1050 from our Fendt dealer. We've been having some issues with our 930 that usually sits in front of the feed wagon. Been having some injector issues here, probably the last 3 weeks or so. We've been dealing with that problem. Replaced 3 injectors so far and the wiring harness, and potentially have it fixed now, but we need to run it some more just to make sure. But we had unhooked it from our feed wagon and put our 724 on the feed wagon. And because we've been having so many issues, I asked our dealer if they had a rental tractor available, and they were able to get us this tractor. So we went and picked this up. Would have been on Sunday. It's Wednesday here today. So I'm using it to do some field work here. Just running along this ditch that goes through this field and disking up some of the low areas that have weeds and cattails standing in them. So this field I'm on currently here, we just picked this field up from a neighbor that's retiring from farming. So I just want to go through this field and kind of get a feel of it myself. I'd like to come through and clean this ditch out with our scraper, but I'm not sure I'm gonna have time this fall, and it's actually plenty wet out here. I don't know how well it would work to begin with, but I might try it here in a day or two if I've got time and I get done with going around some of these sloughs, some of these low areas. I'd asked Tyson to come chisel plow this ground when he's got time. So I think anytime they could be over here to chisel plow this, and I'd like to get this done before he gets here. We'll drive over. There's a couple of sloughs over here that I want to try to get worked up, and then there's a few more to the south. So it's about 3/4 of land here, maybe between 350 and 400 acres farmable. There is a yard that somebody else owns in a tree row, and then there's some CRP in this ground that's in CRP for another 5-6 years or so, I think. But overall, pretty nice piece of ground, and it's from the edge of this field to our yard to our driveway is a half a mile, so can't get much closer than that. So really fortunate to be able to get this piece of ground. Drop the disc down here. So I'm just going around and trying to work up all these areas like this. A lot of them are dry, not all of them, but a lot of them are. At least up top anyways, there's plenty of moisture down below yet. But this Joker does a really nice job of incorporating that material and getting some of it worked into the ground. Get some of that black dirt on top so we can dry out a little bit. Thought I'd get out quick and show you guys the tractor, and then the job we're doing here. This tractor's got some wide tires on it, Fendt 1050. It's kind of windy out here, so hopefully you don't get too much wind noise. But it's a used tractor. It's got about 2,000 hours on it. which to me is just about a brand new tractor to a dairy farmer. But got our disc on here, nothing too special, but this is what we're doing. I just finished this one here, came from that one, did this one. Now just keep going through the field. I guess there's another one there. So just trying to incorporate all the trash on top, the weeds and the cattails, and also expose some of this black topsoil. It's kind of twofold. We want things to dry out, and we want to incorporate what's out here. I mean, if we don't do anything to these, if we're going into winter wet, they're for sure going to be wet next spring. But if we can get these worked up, get some of this topsoil opened up, get things to dry out, if we can go into the winter a little bit dry, we might be able to farm these next spring, or hopefully we'll be able to farm these next spring. I mean, obviously if it's going to be wet in the spring, these are likely still going to be wet, but I mean, you have to try, right? If we don't do anything to these, you know for sure what you're going to have. So that's what we're doing here. I mean, there's quite a bit of moisture here. It's all wet. But hopefully, I mean, depending on when Tyson gets here, it's a neighbor of ours that does some custom farming for us. He plants our corn and he does some tillage and spraying for us. If I can get these worked up and give it a few days of sun and wind, these will dry out enough to where they can go through these with their chisel plows, hopefully, depending on how much of this trash we can get incorporated and how well we chop it up. But that's the plan. And then depending on how things go, I mean, a manure pumping crew should be here later this week. I'd like to put manure on this field. There were soybeans here last year, or this year, I guess, the last crop. Plan is to put corn here next year, so I'd like to get manure put on these 3/4 here if we can, and hopefully we should be able to do that. So we'll get back in the tractor. I'm going to work a few more of these up, and then if I can get the scraper out here, I might show you guys that here in the second part of this video. So a couple days later, I finished disking some of those low spots in that field, and then we had worked at consolidating some rock piles. We had consolidated 4 piles into one. Probably bury those rocks at some point here. I don't know if we'll get to that this year, but I'd also I had went and pushed back some of the down trees along the tree row that's there. Got that all pushed back, and then there's quite a few rocks in that tree row, so my dad was working at cleaning those rocks out, and then he popped the track off the skid steer and wrecked the track, actually. So we put a new track on yesterday. Our dealer had a set of tracks because I already saw that the tracks were getting to the point where they were gonna have to be replaced soon. So we put this track on yesterday. Went fairly well considering it's the first time we've ever done that. It took, I don't know, 45 minutes. So I thought with how well this one went, let's put the other one on too right away. It needed to be done. Obviously we ran into some troubles because that's how it goes. This idler wheel, the springs were busted off, so I picked up new springs and bolts this morning from our dealer. We'll get this idler put back on. We need to clean that tension bogey, that tension wheel on the front a little bit better, so we couldn't get it pushed in all the way, full of mud, full of dirt. So we'll get that cleaned out, and then we'll try to get this other side put on here this morning. Got the idler put back on, got things cleaned up. Now we're gonna try to push this track on. We'll grab the skid steer, Sam, push it over with the skid steer. Yesterday we put it on the back first, and then the bottom, and then we were able to rotate the track. It took a little while, but we eventually got the front popped on, so I think we'll probably do something similar here today. tight.
You think they're gonna go tight?
It's hard to get. Okay. Yep.
Very empty.
Oh, those 2 bars when I take it. Got the tracks put on, that idler wheel put back on. It's still making a vibration noise, so we checked it over, and then the bolts were loose for another idler wheel spring, tightened those up, and we still have a vibration somewhere, so I'm not sure what. Something is vibrating in the tracks, but I'm not sure what. We'll have to look it over again. It was vibrating before we put these tracks on, but I assumed that it was that wheel that was busted off, but apparently it's something else. But it is vibrating. Somewhere there's metal on metal hitting where it shouldn't be. We got a little bit of rain here this morning. I'm hoping to take that scraper out to that field here. Maybe tomorrow, kind of depends on how much rain we get here. There's a chance for a little more rain tonight, so we'll see what that brings. The yard's wet, but things will dry out pretty quick in the field because it's been pretty dry here lately. Back in the field here with the 1050. I'm working on getting a ditch cleaned out, or that's what I'm planning to do here this morning. Got our scraper hooked up here to the 1050. I'm surveying this ditch here at the moment. So there's a waterway that runs through this field all the way from the east end all the way to the west end, kind of zigzags through the field. But there's quite a washout in it here. We're just gonna be coming up to it. From all the rain we had this late spring and summer, it just washed some of this ditch out. So I want to try to get this somewhat repaired. I don't know how far I'll get here because I don't know if you guys can see it down there, but manure pumping crew has started working on this field. So we got first 3 fields of manure done. This is the 4th field. They started on this last night, middle of the night, somewhere around the middle of the night. And they're on the very south quarter of this field, so it'll take them probably half a day or so to get that done. Another half day. I haven't seen how far they are over there, but I'm gonna try to get this ditch repaired prior to then, but there's quite a washout in this here. I don't know how good you guys are gonna be able to see this here, but it's cut probably almost a foot deep where we are here at the moment, so we'll likely have to try to fill this in a little, and all this stuff that was washed out is downstream, and it really fanned out and got extremely wide, so we need to try to repair that so that water can flow through this properly next spring, because we'll likely have at least some water go through this again. So I've got an app that connects to a controller on the scraper, and then it connects to a GPS unit on the scraper, and then I've also got a GPS unit set in the field. So it talks with satellites, but it also talks with that unit just to try to get as accurate as possible. So what we do is survey the line we want to clean out, and then we'll go back and it'll calculate where we need to take out and where not, and it'll try to make do the least amount of material removing to get a nicely sloped ditch. Works pretty good. We haven't had this for very long, just maybe not even a month, I think. So still trying to get a hang of it a little bit, but so far it works pretty good. So then you put one of the remotes of the tractor into continuous flow, and then it'll adjust the scraper height based on where it thinks it needs to be to make a nicely graded ditch. So I still have a half mile to go here, so I'll get this surveyed first, and then we'll maybe catch back up with you guys once we start doing some ditching. See if I can do this, show you guys how it works. So I'm approaching the ditch here. I've made it up to this point. It's been quite a bit of silt and sand up to this point. Just kind of starting to take the top off a little bit here. So once we get to the ditch, push start on here, it'll start to drop that scraper down. I've got that hydraulic remote that's running that. Is set on continuous flow. So now it'll move that scraper up and down based on what the tablet is telling it to, based on what the GPS is telling it to. So I came through here once already, but I thought this would be a lot easier for me to show you guys. So we'll just follow this up, and I'm working right there. That's where I ended. So we're just barely touching it here, just because I've come through here at this height already. But once we get into here, then we'll start picking up some material again. But this stuff is kind of difficult to pick up. It's a lot of it's really fine, and now especially once we get into this trash here, these cattails and weeds, it makes it a little bit tough to pick up. So we'll see how it goes here. I need another hand or two. So it really fanned out here, so it's really tough to tell where the ditch was, because it looks like water ran over here and also over here. I think we're just gonna try to split the difference and maybe stay on the right side of this, and then put the dirt on the left side. To hopefully keep this a tighter ditch here. Now we're starting to pick up some material. Open that door up a little bit. You can see it filling in the back. I'm gonna need to put the camera down here in a second, because I'll have to respond to the. It's not super deep here yet. We can get a little more in there. With that loose material, you gotta kind of pick up speed and open the door a little more to get a full scraper, and it doesn't look like I'm gonna be able to get a full scraper here. We'll try. Speed up a little bit here. So you guys probably can't quite see it, but we're actually above the grade of the land here, which is okay, because we'll come back the next time and drop it down 2 inches. We just go 2 inches at a time every time. That way it keeps it makes it a lot easier to do a nice job. And just gonna put the scraper down, or put the camera down here. I had a phone call and then I thought I'd better pay attention when I got to the end there, so now I'm going back upstream. I ended right there, that's where I closed the scraper up and I went and dumped it. So now I nudged it down 2 inches and then we'll go through the whole cut again. We'll fill a scraper up, dump it, fill a scraper up, dump it all the way to the end. And I did come downhill the first time. It is easier to go uphill to fill the scraper. So we'll see if it goes a lot better going uphill with this loose material. I might just have to go uphill every time, but the GPS in the system, it doesn't matter. It doesn't care if you're going uphill or downhill. It can work either way, and you can also survey uphill or downhill, which is kind of nice, because when you've got a long run like this one here, this is almost a mile long. So now I dropped it down 2 inches, and I'm not picking up any material here yet, but once we get up to here, then we'll start to pick up some material again. I think I'll put the camera down. I did bring my drone, so I'll try to fly my drone here so maybe you guys can get a better view of what I'm doing. But I probably won't be able to move the drone as I'm loading the scraper. But I'll try to do my best. notice on the drone footage, it's tough to get that scraper loaded full, just with how soft the material is, and it is getting quite wet underneath. I think I'm just gonna have to try to get that sand and silt out of there, and either come back if things dry out a little, which, I mean, temperatures are starting to drop off quite a bit here, so I don't know if we'll get the chance to do it this fall yet, or we'll have to come back next year and try to get this reshaped properly. But I for sure want to try to get all that sand and silt out of there so it doesn't hold up a bunch of water this spring, and wash it down below into the culverts where the water exits the fields. But I don't know how much you guys will be able to tell on the camera, but it's quite soft. The scraper's sinking in behind, and I don't need to make it worse than it is either. I don't want to make a mess out here and cause even more problems. But if I could get that sand out of here, that would help a lot. It's been fun running this 1050. It's got some power. Our in theory, our 942 has got 420 horsepower, and this thing's got 520. And you can definitely feel those extra 100 horses. It's the first time I've ran this tractor on the scraper. One of our guys has been doing some scraping around the yard, and he said the same thing, that you can feel that it's got more power. He thought that our 942 was more responsive when it starts to need more power, but I think you can set that in here. I'm not gonna try to adjust and play with that now. This tractor is going to be leaving here Sunday. It's Friday today. But it's been fun to run this thing. I'd like to own one of these here at some point, but we'll see. I think I'll end the video here. Appreciate you guys watching. If you have questions, comments, post them down below, and hopefully we'll see you in the next video.